Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show, where we spotlight individuals and organizations making an impact and powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we're diving into a powerful story of transformation, leadership, and community impact. I'm joined by Dwight Johnson, the Executive Director of Preston Taylor Ministries, an organization that's been journeying with youth across Nashville to help them uncover their God-given purpose and live out their dreams. From after-school enrichment to mentoring and faith-based leadership, Preston Taylor Ministries is building a brighter future for underserved communities, and we're honored to learn more today. Dwight, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. So excited.
All right, let's start with the heart of PTM. Can you share the mission of Preston Taylor Ministries and what initially drew you to this work?
Preston Taylor Ministries, we have three pillars that we focus on, right? So we help students discover their God-inspired dreams, help them develop joy-filled friendships, and also help them grow the desire to learn. And so that is where we start from. That's our heart. We are in the Preston Taylor neighborhood, which in the 80s was a completely different neighborhood. It was a neighborhood that saw a lot of violence, saw a lot of drug activity, saw just a lot of brokenness. And one of the residents at the time, who is the founder of PTM, just said enough and started gathering people in his mom's living room. And from the living room, and well over 30 years later, we operate in over 3 locations, serving just south of 200 kids. And so the heart of PTM is to help families see who they are, know their worth, know their power, know their strength, and then learn how to utilize that and learn how to leverage that on this pursuit of discovering purpose and discovering dreams. And so we really become an organization that is fascinated and then deeply moved by mobilizing families to become all that they have always been created to be. We don't see ourselves as an organization that's throwing on a cape and saying, let us do this for you. We are an organization that says, let us do this with you. And so that's what drew me to this work, and that's what drew me to PTM. I'm not originally from Nashville, but I've been doing youth work now for over 15 years. And one of the things that I have always appreciated about PTM was that there was this understanding that we have a responsibility to families to help them see what's already inside of them. We don't place it inside of them. We don't give them the gift. The gift is already in them. So our joy becomes helping them discover that for themselves.
PTM has such a unique faith-forward approach. How does Christ-centeredness influence the programs, culture, and leadership at Preston Taylor Ministries?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everything, right? Like it has to penetrate every area from, just from the general operations, fundraising, programming, but also to culture and core values and what we hold to be most important. It affects the lens by which we see people. When you see people as loved by God, you treat them in a capacity that centers their creation. And I think that's what becomes really important for us when we are making decisions, whether it's a strategic one, whether it's a family, relationship one, or whether it is a program decision. All of those things are being filtered through the lens of what we have experienced and seen Jesus do and be for people during his ministry. And that is something that we work really hard to mimic as best as we can as, people that aren't perfect, right? But I do believe that it really asks us to pause and really take that extra few moments to think critically about, how are we doing this? What is this language? What does this look like? Are we navigating this in a way that people would know that Jesus loves them and that they are seen and are known and are treasured, right? Like not just tolerated, but treasured. And that is the great kind of measuring space for us is, we really stop to have those conversations as a team internally, but it's also how people experience PTM externally. And if there is a moment where there is not like a Christ-like attitude or a Christ-like love, that is a space for us where we stop and say, hey, we need to put a bookmark here and let's figure out and let's grow. Because while we know we're not perfect, perfection is not the language at PTM, but excellence is. And when we talk about excellence, it's not just about like just working hard or just, just, shoveling soil, just this overarching space where we feel like we're having to work for acceptance or having families or students. This is really important. Having families or students feel like they need to till soil and work for acceptance. We already are, right? We are already accepted. We are already captivated by the love of Christ. And so because of that, we move in accordance with that, and we invite people into relationship because of it.
Can you share an example of how partnerships like those with churches or schools have helped really expand your impact?
And one of the things that I think about is, the great connector. No matter whether you are working from a school lens, whether you're working from a nonprofit lens, whether you are working from a church lens, at our highest or at our best, to know that they are gifted, to know that they are here with a purpose. So that truth is the great connector. We so happen to do that from a faith lens nonprofit after school approach. But what ends up happening and what we begin to have the opportunity to do as we think about these partnerships is we go into conversations with those truths. And we also, as organizations, we have to learn how to sit to hear what the goals of our partners are, right? So like if we're sitting with an MNPS and they're saying things like, hey, we want every third grader in this school to not just be reading on grade level, but we want them to be excelling at reading, not just because of the gift of like knowing how to read, but the confidence that comes with knowing how to read. So when you instill words like confidence, that is reflecting back on the individual, and that is what we center. We center the student. We center the community that is coming alongside that student to ensure that they not only have everything that they need, but they have the community that they need. And it takes a village, Andrew. Like it can't just rest on one body of people to raise these babies and to help these babies reach their goals. It takes a multitude of people, a multitude of villages coming together and saying, "Hey, what gifts do you have? What gifts do you have? What gifts do you have? And what is the need here?" And then let us from that space. So now we're coming from a strengths-based approach rather than a needs-based one. And it centers, the best of all of these community members. And that's inspiring for me, right? Because the other thing is that we can't do it all. So PTM cannot solve every problem. MNPS cannot solve every problem. There's no church in this city that can solve every single problem. And I think that's by design. I think it's by design because we were made for one another. And so just having that model of other mindedness, just this idea that there are people that are in this world, that are in this city, that are in this county, that are raised up to solve this specific issue or to approach this specific issue with a creative solution. That doesn't mean that PTM go, oh well, let us go and create the solution. No, this person's already doing it. So there's no need for us to go start something that someone's already doing at a very high level. Our language becomes how can we support that work and how is that work complementary to the work that we're doing? And so I think that's one of the things that we go into those conversations with, especially from a faith-based lens, that centers community as an extremely important value. That is something that we are always working to talk about out loud and share out loud and invite other people into.
Well, I love that approach because there's definitely power in collective impact. And so when you are coming together, not working in silos, not only are you better stewards of as a nonprofit donations, grants, you're not replicating services and you're truly helping as best you can for these students and these families. And like you said, it takes a village. And so volunteers play a big role in your work. What kind of opportunities do you have for those who want to get involved?
Yeah. Man, a plethora. So one of the things that we understand and realize is we live in a city that is growing immensely every single day. And so people's time becomes more and more valuable. And so one of the things that we try to do when we talk about volunteering at PTM is we first ask people what's your desire, right? Like what's your goal? What are you hoping to get out of volunteering? So it's not just about what they feel like they can give to PTM. My hope and desire is that it's also a conversation of what PTM can do for them as they are serving and giving. So we have a multitude of different ways. As an after school organization, we're always looking for volunteers to come and help students after school, whether that be homework help, whether that be reading help. And a lot of times it's just enrichment. The kids have been in school all day, and honestly, like they are not interested in sitting behind a desk for another 2.5 hours. So we really try to make learning fun and enriching. We do a lot of field trips that sometimes require volunteers. But there, so that's one bucket. It's just like through our after school programming, coming and serving at a site once a week. We also have mentorship opportunities, and so one-on-one mentoring. We have a program that we call Lunchmate mentoring, where a mentor goes to a school once a week and eats lunch with a student. And just checks in with them. It's usually about 30-35 minutes. Go into the school cafeteria, and you just hang out with your mentee there. We also have a breakfast and Bible study mentoring program that happens on Thursday mornings, where a mentor comes to a PTM site and eats breakfast with their mentee. And then there's normally some sort of fun activity that we do together, and then they break off into their one-on-ones and have a Bible study together and just encourage one another through the comfort and the truth of the Word of God. Another one-on-one opportunity is our dinner and devo, and this is for our high schoolers exclusively. And so on Tuesday evenings, we provide a dinner, we provide a meal. And those mentors come and eat a meal with their student and with the community and the group at large, and then they break off and have conversation and check in with one another. And then obviously those two programs require food. So this is also a space where hey, Dwight, I don't have time to come to a site once a week just because of my schedule. Man, that's okay, because we would love for you to donate a meal. And so if you ever want to donate a dinner or breakfast or something of that nature, that's something that we could definitely utilize as well. And then the other bucket of mentoring is just through groups. Like right now, we are in the middle of flipping our building, getting ready for our babies to start back here in the next week and a half. But the building is a mess because we have had summer and we've moved some stuff around, and just the cleaning and all of that stuff. And so, but we always are, trying to work with churches and other spaces to bring groups, because a lot of times people want to come and do something together and serve together. So that looks like coming as a group to help with a cleaning project or some sort of building project. It could look like coming as a group to an after school space and serving kids in that arena. And so that those are just some of the many volunteer opportunities that we have to get people integrated and engaging with PTM and our families and our babies.
What's next for Preston Taylor Ministries? Are there new neighborhoods or initiatives you're excited to explore? And then how can our community help make it happen?
Man, such a great question, Andrew. So, this has been the season where a lot has been upended for a lot of different entities as it relates to funding and, support from various spaces that has since been taken away or has been highly reduced. While, I'm thankful that PTM relies almost 100% solely on, actually 100% solely on just private donations and private support, individual contributions, church contributions, grant writing, that type of thing. We're running into families who have been traditionally a part of other entities and organizations that have had to highly reduce their programming because of funding or because of some situation. And so we are trying our best to take on families that are coming to us because of that. But one of the things that continues to stand out for PTM is, we're operating in North and West Nashville. We want to be an organization that's mendable. And so while our strategic direction is thought internally, and we process that as a team, we want to be an organization that's able to respond to the community as those needs arise. And so we're seeing a growing need for school support. And so we're wanting to be a program that you can find inside of a school, and not always a busing from a school to a PTM site. But we want to be embedded in schools and in those partnerships at a high level. We're wanting a high school program. We're dreaming and praying and building a high school program that is workforce development at its core. We're seeing a growing need of high schoolers who just simply need to go to work for one reason or another. And we believe that we have relationships and we have equity in those spaces to be able to help students find that employment, but also continue to provide life skills, training, direction, but also focus in school, right? So the program wouldn't just be you going to work, but you would also need to make sure that you are meeting your GPA requirements, that you are staying on top of your schoolwork, different things of that nature. And so that's going to be a big shift from for us for our high school ministry. But I believe that that's the direction that we need to go, so that students are not having to choose between community or work, but that we can provide both of those spaces under one roof. And so yeah, we're and then the last thing is, you mentioned this earlier, Andrew, about operating in silos. Something that is really burdening my heart and has for the last few years is there are so many organizations doing such great people work, but we don't talk to each other at a high level. We don't plan with one another in a high level, and it's almost like this entity is over here, this entity is over here, this entity is over there, but we're not coming together to build synergy. And so something that I am wanting to work on with other leaders in the city, and something that I think is important. And other leaders in the city would agree that's important just because of those conversations, is how do we do this together? And not just like routinely here and there, but like, how do we really do this work together? Because as long as we're operating in these silos, and as long as we're operating in our corners, I don't fully believe that we will meet need at the level that we can um, alone, right? Like we need to figure out how we do this together. So just building a strategy around how do we have those conversations? What does togetherness really look like, both on paper and in action? And so those are three pretty big, significant adjustments that we're making to our overall strategy and our focus moving forward, in terms of how we're operating programs and how we're providing those opportunities.
Think as an executive director, to recognize that there's power in collaboration, I think is huge. And I hope that more nonprofit leaders that are listening to this, or board members, realize just the impact that you're able to make when you do collaborate with each other. Because maybe many of your students that you're working with are going to four different places. It's already hard enough for their parents to find a job where the hours work with their children. And just like when you think about just poverty in general, it is not made for you to easily just jump out of it. And so any barriers you can take out of the way there are super necessary. Where can people go to learn more about Preston Taylor Ministries, to sign up to volunteer, donate, and see the great work that you're doing?
So to anyone out there that is like, hey, like I want to just learn more, or hey, I know someone, or I am a person that wants to come alongside this ministry and support financially or with my time, you can find us at our website, www.PrestonTaylorMinistriesAlltogether.org. We're also on Instagram as well as Facebook, just at Preston Taylor Ministries. You can find us there. We're always uploading those pages and those platforms with updates and stories, as well as need. We're currently in a hiring process of just trying to find good, just quality people to continue helping us move forward in this work. And so those spaces you can find us. And I'm always a person that I would, if you're like, hey, like I want to meet Dwight and have more conversation or meet someone on the team, we would love to do that. So there's information on our website on how to best contact us and to connect with us. But we long to connect people whose hearts are for this work, whether it's through being a donor, whether that's through being a volunteer, or just someone, something that's really important that people don't think about is, you don't have to be rich, right? Like you don't have to be, this well-known big person in order to make an impact. Everyday impact really is what keeps us going. And so we would love to connect with you. We would love to share more about the ministry. But yes, you can find us www.PrestonTaylorMinistries.org, and then Instagram as well as Facebook is just Preston Taylor Ministries.
It's clear that your team is not only meeting the immediate needs of your community, but also planting seeds of purpose and faith into the next generation. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for powering the good in our community.
Andrew, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for the continued support. We are so thankful, so grateful. We appreciate you all as well.